Hi everyone and welcome to Mommy Talk on Fuse Logic TV. I'm your host Narissa Singh, mother of two and owner of Play and Learn Toys. For those of you viewing us live, if you have any questions or comments during our show, you're invited to join us live in the chat room. Today we're talking to Julia Page, a DONA-trained and certified birth doula, mother of three, and an advocate for natural parenting. She's also very active in speaking about women's rights to breastfeed in public and has been involved in programs and events that empower women. Let's take a look at a short video clip of Julia and the Grand Rapids Big Latch On event, which is an event that she organized to support breastfeeding mothers and demonstrate that breastfeeding is acceptable in public. We'll talk to Julia more on this topic after the break. You're watching Mommy Talk on Fuse Logic TV, and I'm your host, Narissa Singh with Play and Learn Toys.
We heard about the Latch On America tour just a few weeks ago, and we decided Grand Rapids would be a great location for them to come to because we're a supportive community of our nursing mothers, and we really value them and want them to know that we value them. So we decided to get active on Facebook and online and really encourage them to come here to Grand Rapids, which wasn't even in their spectrum of places to go. But at the last minute, they said, you know, your passion really means a lot to us, and we would love to come out and see you guys. So put together an event, and we had 2.5 weeks to do it, and we did it. And the whole idea here is to promote breastfeeding and to help connect people with their lactation consultants, with their whole support system, so that they know that there is support out here for them. So if a new mother comes along, she knows where to go, and we can help her get through those times and strengthen our community together. And this event will lead right into our August 6th event called the Big Latch On, where women all over the country will simultaneously try to breastfeed their babies in unison to also promote breastfeeding and just the general knowledge and even breastfeeding in public. So we're going to gather here at the same location, and we're going to try to get as many mothers as we can and break Grand Rapids history and try to just continue to promote and support breastfeeding moms. One of the other things that we have decided to do through these events is create a website called Free to Feed GR. The Free to Feed GR site will support nursing mothers by giving them a database of local spots that are free to feed locations, and they will display a sticker in their window which will tell the mothers that are coming into their establishment that they are free to feed their children here. We're hoping that this will build stronger connections between business and family, and we have a lot of high hopes for that.
Welcome back to Mommy Talk on Fuse Logic TV. I'm your host, Narissa Singh with Play and Learn Toys. Julia Page is joining us live on Skype. Hey, Julia.
Hi, Narissa. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So we got lots to talk about today. But before we get into talking more about breastfeeding, you're a certified birth doula. Tell us a bit about what exactly is a doula.
A birth doula is basically a labor companion. I work with women to really help relieve their anxieties and their expectations for birth and things, so that way they can kind of go for more of a natural plan. It isn't always the realistic outcome, but we like to try to empower a woman to believe that her body is fully capable of having her baby naturally and supporting her decisions every step of the way. It's really about educating a woman enough to know what her choices are so she can make an educated choice. And then I support her through the entire birthing process, and I also help establish breastfeeding.
And this usually happens in the home or at the hospital or?
Either or.
Okay.
Yep.
Good to know. And of course, we'll give more information about your contact and your website and stuff so that people can get more information on what you do and how to contact you and stuff. But getting on to the topic of breastfeeding, we just saw that video about the Big Latch On event. What exactly is the Big Latch On, and what inspired the event?
For the Big Latch On was going on all across the country, so it was something that was organized, and anybody could have organized one. It could have even, some people could do smaller ones inside their homes, and it really just depended on, if you could get, I think it was 3 nursing moms or more together, then they would be counted and added to this huge database. And then so basically what we did is I got inspired to do it here because I heard about the story of African Moon, who was kicked off of or attempted to kick off of a bus because she was nursing her brand new baby. That was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I just couldn't imagine trying to kick off a woman from public transportation who's nursing her newborn child. Obviously she probably needed the transportation, maybe even to go to a doctor's appointment or something. It's just, I started realizing that there weren't a lot of extra options. It's either stay home or bottle feed. And
right.
I think that's extremely unfair. And so I learned about the Latch on America tour, which was the big pink bus that you can see in the photos.
Right.
And we started contacting them, really creating a buzz for Grand Rapids, encouraging them to come here. And I had already signed on to put on a big Latch on in Grand Rapids.
Awesome.
And so they coincided really well. And we ended up with 62 moms who showed up, and then 57 of them latched simultaneously, as you can see in the photos. And it was really beautiful. And there were just as many people there to support. Lots of dads and grandmas and grandpas
that
and
came
brothers
out to
and
support.
sisters. Yeah, for sure. It was beautiful.
Well, I was reading too that Grand Rapids, your area wasn't even originally part of the tour, right?
Not at all. They actually kind of even had all of their tours set out, but we had kind of created such a buzz for them online, that they were like, what is this place? And, the guy Ryan Comfort, who was putting on the entire tour, he had never even heard of Grand Rapids. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, good. So it was a great turnout. Well, that was my other question, how many mothers turned out. But you said 62 mothers, 57 latch-ons.
Yeah.
And
they were two separate events.
Oh.
The bus came about a week before we had the Latch On, and so we used the tour part to promote the Latch On as well. But yeah, we had
then that kind of started the hype.
Totally. Yep.
Great. Awesome. Let's get into talking about the breastfeeding issues that mothers are facing right now in the world today. So we know that there are countries that do not support women breastfeeding in public areas because maybe it's considered indecent by these countries.
Yes.
And yet more women around the world are speaking out for their right to breastfeed in public. What's your opinion on this?
My opinion of this is pretty simple, actually. A woman has a right to feed her child just as much as that baby has a right to eat. So when a woman chooses to breastfeed, this is a very unselfish act. She's sharing her body. She's working extra hard to take better care of herself and her baby. And I think that really should be celebrated and encouraged among people everywhere in every country. And, the whole nursing in public thing, I think, honestly, the reason that we have such issues with breastfeeding, a lot of new moms think it's going to be very easy. They're just, oh, yes, I'm going to breastfeed. And then they run into all these troubles that they maybe didn't see coming. And I think a lot of them easily give up and quit because they just have never seen it before. If we've never seen it, we don't know how to do it, and we learn by seeing. So breastfeeding in public is actually very important. And so that's kind of my big thing right now is really trying to get people to understand that nursing in public isn't only not indecent, it's the best thing we could do for future mothers and for even children, so they can see that and normalize it.
So the more people see it, then the more comfortable they will get with the idea, pretty much.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
why is it such an issue now? It seems like why just...
I think it's because
has it always been an issue? Okay.
I don't think it has. I think, maybe women have always been somewhat modest, and most women, when they're nursing in public, you really don't even see nipple. I mean, I've poured through the photos of the big latch on, and I literally couldn't find one nipple shot. And you're talking about 57 moms on a hill breastfeeding their babies, and you can't even find a nipple in the photos.
And now there's all these pretty cover-up thingies.
Oh, yeah, and it's... Women are pretty modest. They aren't trying to breastfeed their baby in public
and expose
to
themselves.
Offend people. Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's just one of those things that we just need to get over. And I think the more exposure and the more we talk about it, the more normal it's going to become. I mean, it's not a hard issue to understand. So I think if it's just something that we can all start that conversation on, it'll happen naturally.
Okay. There are also people who are embarrassed or uncomfortable to see or be around women breastfeeding, and they will even publicly say so.
Yeah, I really think that this is, and I've thought a lot about it, and I really believe that it's more the discomfort of, I want to look at this breast, but there's a baby on it. And so then they get really confused internally. And so then that kind of incites a little bit of anger or a little bit of, misunderstanding. And so that's where the offense comes from. I really don't think that breastfeeding is offensive.
They don't know how to act maybe around
Exactly.
seeing it, because again,
they don't know whether they should look or whether they shouldn't look, and they don't know what her comfort zone is, and that's okay. And when I talk to people about this who have that opinion, at first I say, it's okay to look. You don't have to, stare at her, but you don't have to cover your face and run away either.
Right.
I'm like, it's just breastfeeding.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Right. And what about, but then there's actually people who are literally find it disgusting to even be around, right, and think it's their breastfeeding moms have the right to breastfeed in the public, but they also have the right to not be exposed to it either. So what would you say to people like that?
I would say that there's a lot of people who are offended by homeless people, and there's a lot of people who are offended by a lot of things. But I think our babies' rights to eat are way more important than people's rights to not see things that they don't want to see. I mean, this is the world, and we all have to share it. And you can't go around, choosing what's appropriate and what isn't for everyone just because of something that makes you uncomfortable. So I think it's one of those things that's, it's just constant exposure. I think the more that these people are exposed, even if it does offend them, my stance is they can go in the bathroom. They can go they can go somewhere else just as easily as a nursing mom. I just don't understand why people would want to inconvenience a mother who's already carrying around diaper bags and babies and everything. It's like, we don't need more accessories. We don't need to bring bottles. That's why we choose not to. So it's just, they got to get comfortable with it. You're going to have to get over it, kind of thing.
That's right. And someone pointed out when I said we're going to be talking about this topic on a show today, and in support of, mom's breastfeeding, they said, well, it's natural. Every animal out there, not every animal, but you know what I mean? Like, it's such a natural process. So why shouldn't we breastfeed? But I guess it's not the question isn't why shouldn't we, it's just more having the public feel comfortable and having society really feel more comfortable in accepting women breastfeeding
right.
in public,
it really comes
right?
down to, why do we have to fight for it? We're literally just trying to feed our babies the very best nutrition that we can give them. If you do any amount of research at all that's not, biased in any way, you will find out that breast milk is the very best thing you can give a baby. And so I don't know why we would make a woman hide and do that alone and just make her job so much harder when the mother is the most important job in the world, really. Everybody's got one, everybody needs one, and for a woman who's breastfeeding, she's doing everything she absolutely can to do the best for her baby, and that should be celebrated. I can't even imagine trying to I don't know, just make her feel bad for what she's doing. And a lot of women do. They feel embarrassed and they feel like they're maybe doing something wrong. And it's the harder we make it for a woman to nurse, the less women are going to nurse. And that's why we see such low rates. Yeah, exactly. But we're mammals because we have mammary glands. That is what makes us human, so it's amazing that we denounce it the way that we do. But I think the tides are turning. I think that people are starting to come around. And
with more movements and stuff like this, I guess.
For sure.
It's about educating people, right?
Definitely.
So even on Facebook, though, there's been a lot of controvery with regards to pregnant pictures of pregnant moms and breastfeeding moms being removed because the pictures were deemed offensive.
Yep,
so
there's me.
you've got some, and there you go.
Yep.
Some up right now of you. And what are your thoughts on this? Have you ever been asked to have your Facebook photos removed?
I have never been asked, or I've never had any of my Facebook photos removed, which is surprising because I'm pretty out there about it and I'm not afraid to put them up. I'm always very conscious, making sure that there's no nipple and stuff like that. I don't want people seeing my nipple either, so.
Right.
Yeah, it's just being very careful about it. But I've known many, many people who have had their pictures flagged. Usually this is a case of either somebody flagged it or Facebook found it somehow and deemed it inappropriate. This has made the news all across the country because women are just like, I mean, are you kidding me? This woman can be in almost no clothes at all in a sexual position, and that's acceptable as far as Facebook standards go. But then, this woman's breastfeeding her little baby, and she can't share that photo with her friends and family. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And what other issues do you think that women face right now when it comes to breastfeeding?
Oh my gosh. Do you have time? I really think that it's a system with a lot of booby traps, no pun intended. We have hospitals that hand out free formula right from the start. A lot of the nurses, the doctors, pediatricians, they actually don't require any breastfeeding knowledge at all. So when women go into the hospitals or when they go to see their pediatrician or something, when they're getting advice for breastfeeding from these professionals, they think that they know what they're talking about, when in actuality, they're getting really bad advice that is going to be the downfall of their breastfeeding journey. A woman needs support. Support, I think, is the number one thing that a woman who is nursing needs, not only from her family, but from her community as well. And I think that is one of the biggest things that we need to work on in this country and beyond even. But I think that there's a lot of initiatives to have more baby-friendly policies in the hospitals. There's a lot more initiatives to get people aware of breastfeeding and how it can benefit baby and mom. And so the tides are changing, but there are definitely a lot of pitfalls along the way that a woman can fall into. And I think the best advice to give that woman or a new mom is to do her own research, to take the things that her healthcare professionals say with a grain of salt, go home and do your own research and find a good support group.
Right. I have to give you my experience though, because I guess when I had my babies, there was a ton of support. There was like a lactation consultant on site, and it was even so much so that the breastfeeding was like, it was almost a lot of pressure to breastfeed, because I did not breastfeed both my kids, only because I went in there like having my first one. I went in with a mindset that I'm gonna try,
right,
and I'm gonna do it, and had my baby, and my ducts were clogged. So we tried for hours to, I guess, unclog.
Right.
But do stuff. But then, like my baby was, like starving and needed to be fed. And yes, there is the formula available. But at that point, like, I was just like so frustrated, and being a new mom, hearing my baby just bawling, I'm like, stop. I just need to feed my baby. So give me the formula. Right. But even like in the weeks after, I had a lactation consultant come to the house to still try to help me with getting her to latch on and express the milk, and even with pumping, I was clogged. So, that just wasn't working for me. And
it happens. My first, actually, I had right after I was 17 years old, and I didn't get to nurse him either. I kind of went in with the same attitude and was like, I'm going to breastfeed, and I thought I'll give it a shot anyways. And when I had him, I wasn't exactly ready to just do it. And so the nurse gave him a bottle in the meantime, kind of without my permission. But I didn't know any better. Right. And I saw a lactation consultant, stayed in the hospital an extra day and everything, trying to work on it. I didn't realize at the time, that there were outside resources that I could have tapped into at home. I kind of felt like if I don't get this here at the hospital, then I'm just not going to get it. So, I have a formula-fed baby too. I've totally been there. And it's, to me, it's a good thing that there's formula for when these things happen. So we have something to give our babies.
That's right. But I have to say, though, with the first experience, and it wasn't very enjoyable for me, not the part of breastfeeding, but just because, did we lose Julia? Did we lose her? Oh, no. Okay, I can still hear you. It wasn't very enjoyable for me, like going through the whole, like, just trying, and I'm in pain, and it's just having to, had to go on antibiotics and stuff just to get the swelling down, whatever. Fever, all that great stuff that comes with. Are you learning lots, Evan, again today? So with the second one, I went in with a mindset that, okay, I'm not even, again, give it one shot, but more I kind of made the decision that it didn't work the first time, but sure enough, second time, it was the same situation. I couldn't, it just wasn't coming to be able to feed my babies. So, but we'll talk more about that though. On the next segment. But we're going to take a short break right now. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Julia. You're watching Mommy Talk on Fuse Logic TV. I'm your host, Narissa Singh, with Play Learn Toys.
Breastfeeding is the right of every woman and child, especially babies, because we shouldn't have to hide, because it's a norm.
1 Ogos sampai 7 Ogos is the World Breastfeeding Week. Ibu-ibu semua telah berkumpul untuk menyatakan bahawa penyusuan ibu adalah satu yang tabii dan kami berhak untuk menyusu di mana-mana sahaja dan bukan di tempat-tempat yang tersembunyi.
Breastfeeding is the best milk for your baby, so why not do it? Right? Do it, mama. No matter how you are, you can do this.
Flash mobs kan very popular kan, so apa kata kita buat untuk breastfeeding, because tak ramai orang yang berani nak breastfeed in public sebab dia malu, but it's very natural, so this is what all these women are showing.
These are all breastfed children. I never hid in public. When I had to breastfeed in public, I just did it anywhere and anytime, and that's the right of every woman and child, as I said.
Jadi kita harapkan mesej ini disampaikan kepada seluruh rakyat Malaysia, dan semoga penyusuan ibu akan kembali menjadi tabii dan kebiasaan dalam masyarakat kita.
Baby untuk mendapat susu di tempat yang awam dan bukan tempat-tempat seperti toilet dan sebagainya.
Kami sini membuktikan menyusu kat mana-mana pun boleh. So kalau anda kat rumah, jangan hesitate untuk lakukan ni bila anda keluar shopping nanti, okey? Kita berharap yang siapa-siapa audience yang nampak hari ni kan sedar yang penyusuan ibu tu patut yang utama.
Come on, sisters! Feed the future! Come on, sisters! Feed the future! Come on, sisters! Feed the future!
Welcome back to Mommy Talk on Fuse Logic TV. I'm your host, Narissa Singh, with Play Learn Toys. We're back with Julia Page, and we are discussing issues surrounding women and their right to breastfeed in public. So, Julia, we're kind of running out of time, so we're going to have to go through this really quickly.
Right.
But why are you so active in supporting women's right to breastfeed?
Oh, well, like I said, I had my son when I was 17 years old, and the whole experience that I had with him with not being able to breastfeed felt very rejecting. And I was a foster kid as well, so family was something that, I really kind of, I think, thought that by having a baby, I would finally have that family feeling, and I would, have that mother connection that I had never really had before. And when he refused my breast, it really led to a lot of serious postpartum depression, which I didn't recognize until almost 7 years later that that's what that was. And so, I realized the importance of breastfeeding, and that had I been able to nurse him, I would have taken better care of my body. The whole first year, I was not the best of mothers to him. And my foster parents basically took care of him because I was so depressed, I just couldn't be around. And had I been nursing him, I would have had to stay home. I would have had to bond with my baby. I would have had to do these things. And so later on, really recognizing that really made me realize the importance that it was for mothers to be able to connect on that level and to be able to, if they want to breastfeed, to successfully have that support and be able to do it. And so I really just felt like this was one of those ways, just like the birthing thing, to create the strongest bond between mother and child. And this is my way of creating or helping create world peace, because I feel like loved babies will become, loving adults. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. And so if a mom wants to breastfeed and she wants to have her baby naturally and she feels like she can do this, I want to be one of those people that's there to tell her, yeah, you can, and it's going to be beautiful, and you're going to have, a stronger bond with your child. Even if you don't succeed at it, the experience that you have trying and doing these things for your baby is so selfless, and it's that in itself is a bonding experience, because you're giving and giving to your baby.
Right. Julia, you touched a little bit on experiencing some postpartum depression yourself, and that was one of my later questions. But yeah, I recently read an article that talked about the possible effects that being unable to perform when it comes to breastfeeding, whether it's by choice or not, can possibly contribute to postpartum depression, because there's so much maybe pressure on yourself or pressure from others to breastfeed, and some women feel like maybe they've failed.
Exactly.
If they are unable to.
Yeah, a lot of it is surrounded by feelings of failure and I couldn't do this.
And you know what? Thinking back and, doing a little bit of reading articles and stuff in preparation for this topic, and my last child 4 years ago, he'll be 4 soon. So, I mean, I never really thought about it that way, but it makes sense too, because again, I was talking for myself. I wasn't able to because of clogged ducts and I guess there was a lot of pressure on myself too, because I just felt like I needed to feed my child and I couldn't, right? So yes, we had the formula, so that was fine. But I did have some postpartum depression too, so it kind of all ties in, I think. Really quickly, would you agree that some women believe that it's their right to choose not to breastfeed, not necessarily by choice, but choosing not to? And do you support those rights and beliefs as well?
Yeah, I feel like any informed choice is up to the person. I who am I to say that women can't breastfeed? I'm really just more focused on the women who want to, and making sure that they have the support and the right to. I mean, the fact that we even have to create laws to protect our right to breastfeed is absurd to me, but I've never heard of a woman getting, kicked out of a location for bottle feeding her baby or anything like that. So it's just, to me, it's not the issue. It's like, it bums me out. I wish more women would choose to try to breastfeed their babies.
Right.
But there's a lot of reasons people don't. And who am I to say, that
why
you should
not?
have anyways. Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm not here to judge. I'm really here to just support those who choose to do it.
That's right. I was just going to say provide the support for those who do it. That's right. What would you say, what advice would you give to those women who, let's say, don't enjoy breastfeeding?
Oh, and do it anyways?
Maybe or mothers-to-be who think they may not enjoy it, or new moms out there who are not enjoying the experience.
I would say that
want to give up.
Breastfeeding is not always easy, but it is always worth it. So it's one of those things that if you can get through and get to the other side, and I would highly suggest, like I said, finding a support group, finding those people in your life who will encourage you to keep going and give you the proper advice, but if it doesn't work out this time, there's always next time, or it's going to be okay. Your baby's not going to, be this terrible, unhealthy person or anything like that. I never really take part in the parts of the debate that's like, breastfed babies are smarter and breastfed babies are this and that. Yes, there's a lot of benefits to breast milk. That's undeniable, and we all know that. But it doesn't mean that formula-fed babies are stupid, and it doesn't mean that formula-fed babies are, sick all the time. It just it doesn't. And so it comes down to personal choice and support, and making sure that people are making educated decisions. That's my biggest thing too, is really, and I always encourage
get informed.
Moms, get informed.
I agree.
Make your own choice. Don't do it on opinion or anything. Just go out, do your homework, and make your own informed decisions. You're always making the right choice if it's an informed choice.
And do what's best for you. That's right. I completely agree. Julia, any last messages? We're running out of time, so we're almost, unfortunately, ready to end the show. But any last messages that you'd like to put out there for the audience?
I would just like to say, if you're a breastfeeding mom, keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry about everybody else's opinion, because if you do that, you're going to waste a lot of your time and energy. Just focus on you and that baby of yours, and that's all you got to do. For those of you who don't like breastfeeding in public, I would say get over it. There's nothing more that you can really say, because it's just kind of a silly argument, in my opinion.
You can't choose when that baby needs to feed, right?
You can't. And it's silly to ask a woman to pump and to store all this milk and all these accessories and all these things she doesn't actually need just to make you comfortable. So we need to kind of find a middle ground, and I think the middle ground is already there. We just have to open that discussion and start talking to each other and start trying to think with compassion and love, and understand this is just about nutrition for our babies. We're not trying to offend anybody, but if it happens to offend people, then it's kind of more their problem than ours. We've got enough things on our plate.
That's right. I agree. Thanks, Julia, so much for joining us and discussing this topic that you're obviously so passionate about. So that's it for our show today. I know that this show will probably spark some debate, and we will definitely want to hear your comments and opinions about today's show. Thanks to everyone viewing us live. Thanks to Julia for connecting with us and sharing your story and opinions. Julia is also involved with Free to Feed GR, Mothers of Milky Way, Gypsy Hoopers, and the West Michigan Better Birth Network, as well as working towards opening a community center called the Common Unity, which will focus on and empower women and mothers to realize their highest potential. To find out more about Julia and the services that she provides, or to get involved with any of the programs and events that she's involved with, go to crowninglotus.com. And there are also a number of local breastfeeding support here in Sherwood Park and Edmonton and area, so feel free to contact me for more information. I do have quite a bit of contact information for consultants and groups that you can get support from. As we leave you, we'll play one more video clip of Julia and the Big Latch On Drive. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm your host for Mommy Talk, Narissa Singh.
Show us your shirt.
Latch on, America. She's latched.
Alright, I got one of these for a flip side.
I think that's fabulous. That is. Did she do it simultaneously? She did. That is amazing.
Ended up working it out.
Yeah,
It was totally good. We're all
I
good.
came down to the event, but I felt bad that every time I tried to come to something, he was crying in person.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to the best of us. Right.
Mom.
What, honey? Thank you, Lori. You got your buddy to sign? Yeah. So you just write down how many hands we did, and if other people had extras, then they had extras or whatever, but that's all we can really do.
Yeah.
You know? I know.
Obviously, people are going to